Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is our Prophets of Awakening. This is our Sabbath class, 28th of August, 2021. And what we're going to be dealing with later on in the class is the Fulani Empire. It's the enemy from within. And we're going to go all the way into that. So with that being said, I'm asking everybody to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification button for this channel, Prophets of Awakening. This is a non-Masonic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses at Mount Sinai by the Lord of Hosts. So we say shalom and welcome everyone. And we're going to do our moment of silence, our prayer, and songs, and then we do a little current events. And I mean, if you've been hearing me saying Hebrews on different videos, and when I'm doing my classes, don't be disturbed, because I'm just following the narrative that the Most High gave us, that He's gonna in these latter days He's gonna wake up. It's this particular seed line He's gonna wake up and deal with. So, when they Hebrew Israelites, so that's not affecting kind of way. Just continue to do what you're doing. If you're playing dominoes, keep on playing dominoes. If you're eating hog, keep doing it. Just don't worry about it. So just let it roll off like water on a duck back. Okay. We're gonna do a moment of silence and a prayer, Sabbath prayer. Oh Lord, we come before you at this hour on your day that you have given unto us for rest, your Sabbath, praising you and honoring you because of your position both in heaven and upon the earth, a position in which the Creator Yahweh have given unto thee. Through your spirit and counsel, O Lord, we have awakened. We have awakened to know that we are who we are as a people, and who you are as our Savior and Redeemer. We are thankful for all that you have done, and we are eagerly searching your scriptures out, that we may be in the right place at the right time upon your arrival to this planet. Lord, I pray to thee that you continue to let your light shine down upon us in spirit and in truth. We love you. We seek you daily. O Lord, there is none else besides thee to redeem us. We see in the affairs of the world, and we faithfully await your deliverance. Peace be unto you. Okay?
Hallelujah.
We're going to do Psalms right quick. Okay, this is Psalms 58. It's a denunciation of the wicked. Do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? Yea, in the heart ye work wickedness. Ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They are astray as soon as they are be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ears, which will not hearken to the voice of the charming never so wisely. Break their teeth, O God, in their mouth. Break out the great teeth of the young lion, O Lord. Let them melt away as waters which run continuously. When he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, let them be as cut in pieces, as a nail which melted. Let every one of them pass away like the untimely birth of a woman, that they may not see the sun. Before your pots can feel the thorns, he shall take them away as with a whirlwind, both living and in his wrath. The righteous shall rejoice when he seeth the vengeance, and he shall wash his feet in the blood of the wicked, so that a man shall say, verily, there is a reward for the righteous. Verily, he is a God that judgeth in the earth. So that's Psalm 58, and it's a denunciation of the wicked. Okay. Anybody have any current events that they want to bring up?
Oh, I wanted to bring up that whirlwind.
Okay.
You was telling us about.
All right. So they sticking out, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just some. Yeah. So yeah, that's a good thing to know. Okay. I got one current event. I'm kind of trying to get into the class because I got a lot of stuff I gotta deal with. So I'm gonna do this one current event. I'm going to the class. Okay. Okay, it says U.S. officials warn of a possible strike. This ain't nothing but a setup right here. U.S. officials warn of a possible strike, threats to the U.S. in the wake of Afghan attacks and mass evacuations. Federal officials are on high alert for threats to the homeland following the mass evacuation from Afghanistan and devastating attacks in Kabul this week that killed U.S. service members and scores of Afghans. The Department of Homeland Security is tracking three primary threats, including whether individuals abroad in Afghanistan who are associated with the ISIS or Al Qaeda could use the relocation process as a way to enter the U.S., according to the federal government call with law enforcement partners on Friday to obtained by CNN. So, it says to counteract that, there is an extensive screening and vetting process that is in place for those who are being relocated to the United States. The DHS Intelligence Chief John Cohen says on the call, the White House announced Friday that DHS will take on major challenges of overseeing the federal government response for relocating evacuated Afghans to the U.S., an effort underway after tens of thousands of people were airlifted from Kabul into recent weeks. So, okay, any comments on that?
Yeah, I guess earlier this evening, U.S. supposedly did airstrikes and killed some ISIS targets in Afghanistan.
Okay. Like well, the thing was baffling me is, I mean, why you got to bring them to America? You know what I'm saying? You got allies and you got other countries, you got other Arab countries that's safe to go to, but why don't you take them now?
Exactly.
But you want to take them here because you got a plan. You're using that as it's gonna be an attack. You just setting it up. You're gonna blame it on that. You know what I'm saying? That's how slick Esau is.
Word
Okay.
on the street is that Afghanistan said that they wasn't gonna cultivate, sell any more opiates.
Right. Right.
So, and all those pharmaceuticals, all that money you invested, it's a
Right.
setup, man. You can see it.
Right. Exactly.
They want to go back and get those poppy fields.
Right. That's where all the money is.
America, a old dog with the same old tricks.
Right. Exactly. You did something? Okay. So yeah, anybody else got anything on that? So anybody ever heard the race of people called Fulani that's in Africa? Anybody ever heard of them? Or did any research on them?
Aren't they supposed to be Israelites?
Yeah, that's what they say. That's what I'm doing is I've been putting it off because it's kind of, you know, it's complicated, but I'm gonna go in right here today. Show you what time it is. It's good, like I said, people don't really understand the deception that's going on. So they think they do. You got a lot of them that think they do. So-called mores and all that. But yeah, so that's the narrative that they gave us. Like most I said, don't deal with their knowledge. Seek him out and let him guide you and get the proper knowledge. So yeah, that's what they tell us, that these Fernandi is the Israelites. And like I was saying yesterday in previous classes, how when we see people in their skin color, we can't let our guards down because we think they're Israelites. Because we half-ass awake and we think that we know, we see them, they think they're Israelites. But like I said, our women was being raped on the slave ship by the thousands. And the women was coming here pregnant. Baby ain't no Israelite. But they took all them kids right to the slave quarters. But they ain't Israelites. And then then you gotta look at that because of what developed from that. You had the house Negro and the field Negro that Malcolm X was talking about. 9 times out of 10, the house Negro came from that. He wasn't wanted by his father, but he was of his father, but he wasn't wanted by him because of the characteristics he got from his mom, his complexion. But he's a European, but he don't look like a European. And he saw been beating us to death on that for 2,500 years. So let's go in. Like I say, so you have to come. If you have to, you got to get a magnifying glass, but you got to start checking these people out because if you check them out, it's gonna, and you hold a decent conversation with them, you're gonna see what time it is. They might not even know, but you gonna know. So I'm gonna do this right here, right quick. Like I said, I hope this helps somebody. I'm gonna play a series of videos and I'm gonna break them down because that's about the only way to do this. Like I said, pictures worth 1,000 words. So I'm gonna go to this first one. It's talking about the Fulani Empire. They naming it the Great Fulani Empire, but I don't see nothing great about it when you understand what's going on. Same with Alexander the Great. Ain't nothing great about him. His name Alexander. Take the great off. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna give you the name of the videos. You want to go back and watch it. This guy right here, he do a lot of work, but it's a lot of people not dealing with him because they're not understanding. He over the heat. Okay, so here we go. This is the first one. See that dude characteristics? See, you swear up and down the Israelite, but we're gonna go all the way in on it.
Among the largest ethnic groups in Africa, their history is rich and diverse because of the many regions they inhabit. With such a large group of people living throughout various kingdoms in Africa, we have to imagine.
Notice how they look more like the people that was over here in America. Once you peep game, like I say, you start looking at checking out stuff and these features.
That the formation of a great Fulani Empire was inevitable. What up, Afro Road? Assume here and welcome to reporting this content. If you like, in the description box below. In northern Nigeria, the Fulani and Hausa peoples have been.
Notice Nigeria. I told you who Nigerians were. Nigerians are Ephraim. Right? Let's look at something right quick before I go into this. I'm trying to set it up for you so you can up the ante. So, okay, most I said right here in Ezekiel 37, right quick. Got to set the stage. Ezekiel 37. Here I go again. Let me get this. Ezekiel 37. So he says that 37:21 says 37:21 of Ezekiel. And they say unto them, thus says the Lord God, behold, I will take the children of Ephraim. Let me see. Oh no, I gotta go to just dealing with Judah and Ephraim. So then you have to understand how they got split up. Ephraim is from Joseph. Joseph is a rod, right? He's a rod. He sent Joseph to Egypt to save the Israelites from the famine that came. So because of that, Joseph got two lots in Israel, Manasseh and Ephraim. Ephraim is the head out of the two. So when Solomon did what he did, he had a Jeroboam, which is from Ephraim, to take over the 10 tribes. And then Judah is over the southern kingdom. David came out of Judah. So these two alpha males, they bumping heads. So I'm in 37:16. Moreover, thou son of man, take one stick and write upon it for Judah. See that? And for the children of Israel, his companion. Then take another stick, write upon it for Joseph. See that? The stick of Ephraim. And for all the house of Israel, his companions. And join them one to another into one stick. And they shall become one in thine hand. So he's telling you this is what he's going to do. This is what's going to happen in the future. We see it is actually manifesting itself now. So, but up until this point before this, they had straight out all out war with each other. You know, that's why a lot of people can't distinguish who Ephraim is, because they can't fathom that Ephraim is at Judah's throat, just like Esau is. So, 18 says, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, will thou show us what thou meanest by these? That means that they don't know. That's why they ask the question. So 19, say unto them, thus says the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribe of Israel, his fellows, and I will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. And these sticks whereupon thou writest shall be in mine hand before thy eyes. So he's going to bring them back together, right? So what I'm dealing with now with this lesson right here is to show you what a drama is that nobody hardly aware of. So I'll give you two examples. I'm in Isaiah chapter 7. See, I'm going to play the video. Isaiah chapter 7. This is one of the reasons why I showed you when Cyrus made the proclamation of the commandment that is in Daniel chapter 9, verse 25. Ephraim, the 10 tribes, took heed of what he said, but they said we're gonna go to a far country where we can keep the laws and statutes. So they went to Ashtaroth. We talked about that last night. So I'm in chapter 7 of Isaiah. So chapter 7, verse 1. And it came to pass in the days of Ahaz, son of Jotham, the son of Uzi, king of Judah, right? That Rezin, the king of Syria, and Pecan, the son of Remaliah, king of Israel. I told you Ephraim is Israel, because the person that's over Israel is Jeroboam and his lineage, and the 10 tribes is Ephraim. So sometimes he call it Israel, sometimes he call it Ephraim. So he says, so this guy Pecan, which is over the 10 tribes, then teamed up with the Syrian people, and they went up toward Jerusalem, where Judah had, to war against it. See that? But could not prevail. But the intent of what I'm showing you, they went there to fight. They don't want the Southern Kingdom to be there no more. They don't want David's seed line to exist no more. They want to do away with it. So we'll go down to show you what I'm talking about. Let me see what it says. Yeah, verse 6 says, Isaiah 7:6. Let us, this is the intent right here, Ephraim, let us go up against Judah, vex it, and let us make a breach therein for us, and set a king in the midst of it, even the son of Tabal. So they want to take that son that's given from David out of there, and they want to put this man right here lineage. They want to get rid of David lineage. And like I said before, they accomplished that when they put JC there, because he ain't out of David's lineage. So it's a breach in Israel right now. It's a lot of our problem. They stuck a king there that ain't got nothing to do with us. Just like what these people was trying to do. So we see how Judah constantly warring against Israel, right? And like I said, they didn't tricked us off with the 10 tribe thing, with them coming to America and all that. So nobody ain't really focusing and trying to figure out where Ephraim at. Cause Ephraim got a problem with Judah, right? So let's look at it. We're gonna play this right here. And I told you, Nigerians is Ephraim. If you know anything about that, they got a serious problem with African Americans. The Nigerians do. So we're gonna understand that, okay?
And interacting for quite some time. The Hausa states initially formed walled cities that eventually became important trading centers in the region. These states, such as Zazzau, Katsina, Kano, and others, began to attract other Africans, such as the Fulani. Even though Islam was a predominant religion amongst the Hausa people in the 18th century, many of them still continue to incorporate their own.
We're going to deal with the Hausa people too. We ain't going to leave no rock unturned.
Own traditional beliefs into Islam, thus influencing many of the Muslim Fulani to consider them as non-Muslims. Over time, many Fulani acquired some ambition to form their own state, and Uthman Dan Fodio became the spiritual leader of this group. In the Hausa city-state of Gobir, Usman became an advisor to the ruler there and tried to convince him to abide by more strict Islamic beliefs. Even though not all Fulani people in Hausa land were on board with Uthman's position, many of them were, and their movement began to make many of the Hausa rulers there very uncomfortable. Interestingly enough, although the Sokoto Jihad was waged primarily by Fulani-led independent armies, it also attracted many of the Hausa peasants, who were oppressed by slavery, excessive taxation, governmental corruption, and the imposition of customary rights that gave the elites the right to pick their daughters as well as their beasts of burden. And so, when Uthman spoke of an Islam in which fellow Muslims could not be enslaved and government would be administered with social justice, he included the grievances of many Hausa people. In 1803, Sarkin Gobir Yunfa, the ruler of Gobir, summoned Uthman to the palace in an attempt to assassinate him. This failure to kill Uthman was seen as divine providence, and in 1804, the Fulani Jihad really began. Uthman then became the commander of the faithful. By 1808, most of the Hausa states had been conquered, although the ruling dynasties retreated to the frontiers and built walled cities that remained independent. The more important of these independent cities included Abuja, where the ousted Zaria dynasty fled, Argungu in the north, the new home of the Kebi rulers, and Maradi in present-day Niger, where the Katsina dynasty retreated. Gobir fell in 1810, and within 10 years, all of the Hausa states succumbed to the sweeping might of the Fulani Jihad. This formulated into what we know today as the Sokoto Caliphate. At its height, this Fulani-driven empire included several Hausa states, as well as the nearby kingdoms. The Caliphate was a loose confederation.
Yeah, like I said, notice their complexion, and then they tied to the caliphates. They tied to Islam.
Of emirates that recognized the authority of Uthman, the commander of the faithful. The allegiance sworn by Fulani elites and recognized by the caliph in the form of sending flags as symbols of recognized powers and rights constituted the elementary framework of the caliphate's leadership. These families established the Fulani elite of the different emirates or dependent states. Regular correspondence between the caliph and the emirates enabled a relatively unified policy for most of the century. By the middle of the 19th century, there were 30 emirates, including the capital district of Sokoto, which itself was a large and populous territory. All the important Hausa Emirates, including Kano, the wealthiest and most populous, were directly under Sokoto's administration. Adamawa in present-day Cameroon, which was established by Fulani forced to evacuate Borno, was geographically the biggest, stretching far to the south and east of its capital at Yolo. The influence of the Caliphate reached the southern bank of the Niger when Ilorin became part of it in the 1830s. It was the cavalry of Oyo from the Yoruba people based in Ilorin and largely composed of Muslim slaves that initiated this move when it swore allegiance to Sokoto following a series of internal clashes after 1817. Uthman Dan Fodio's jihad created the largest empire in West Africa since the fall of the Songhai in 1591. By the middle of the 19th century, when the Sokoto Caliphate was at its greatest extent, it stretched 1,500 kilometers from Dori in modern Burkina Faso to southern Adamawa in Cameroon. In present-day Nigeria, it covered the Nupe lands, Ilorin in northern Yorubaland, and much.
Yeah, notice that it's tied. It's adjacent. It's tied to Nigeria. We saw on 3 or 4 different occasions, Ephraim tagged up with these other people to attack Judah.
Much of the Benue River Valley, the Jihad, and subsequently the states of the Sokoto Caliphate influenced the political and social development of the region significantly. In addition, Uthman Dan Fodio's Jihad provided the inspiration for a series of related holy wars in other parts of the Savannah and the Sahel that led to the foundation of Islamic states in Senegal, Mali, Cote d'Ivoire, Chad, the Central African Republic, and Sudan. The immediate states of the Caliphate functioned as one of the most important polities in the 19th century and played a major economic role in agriculture and the labor movement. Interestingly enough, the Sokoto Caliphate really advanced the institution of slavery and its function throughout most of Nigerian society. During its reign, enslaved people played a more important role in economic production. The number of enslaved people increased due to demand, and they were concentrated in agricultural work. Entire settlements of enslaved people called Tungazi were established in Nupe. Ironically, this attracted the attention of European visitors based on its organization and function. Eventually, the British would use this as an excuse to invade Sokoto in the coming years of the 20th century. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help in this.
Okay. Anybody have any comment so far?
I got some questions.
Okay.
Okay, dealing with this. So Ephraim is Nigeria, and Ephraim and Manasseh always had an issue with being under the rulership of King David.
Right.
And
House of King David.
You said what?
The House of King David.
The House of King David. Okay. And how is it if Joseph, was a rod and was, a righteous seed, how is it that his descendants fall so far as to do what they was doing? Like, how did that come? Is that because the Most High wanted it to be that way?
Right. You got to understand who Joseph was. Joseph's wife Israelite woman?
No, I considered that as well, but I just remember you saying that once the father, if the father is Hebrew, then the kids are Hebrew. But I do know that if they mix, the baby still be thrown off.
Exactly. The same happened with what I showed you
with Judah.
Absalom mother wasn't Israelite. See what he did. He tried to kill David. You have to consider that. But anyway, so, and then you got to look at the power and wealth and all that was included in it. So Ephraim became, he became corrupt. The same with the fallen angels. Those 200 angels was righteous at first. But once they did the act that they took and they went and started sleeping with those women, they immediately, they became corrupt. That's what a lot of people don't understand about that. That's a process. And then they went from, they initially was watching, there was watchers. They're supposed to be watching the women. And they went from that, seeing what the men was doing, with them, they want to do it with them. Because we made like them, they ain't made like us. So once they divided it in their mind and then they acted on it, it did something to their inside. They became rough. They went from lusting after the women to all out in the field, running down giraffes and antelopes and all that, sleeping with them. All up in the ocean, messing with fish. They became corrupt. So that's the same thing with this right here. He gave, because of what Solomon had done, he gave Ephraim the 10 tribes. Ephraim couldn't handle it. And he just started going downhill. Like I said, he got to the point where he had a problem with the covenant that the Most High had with David. So rather than the Most High gave him charge of the 10 tribes, all he got to do is lead them to Jerusalem on the feast festival days and on the Day of Atonement. But he don't want to go to Jerusalem. He don't want to take the people there because he don't want David, the house of David, to have nothing to do with him. You got puffed up, thrown out. So that's see what I'm saying? So it's to the point. That's why nobody deals with this. They don't understand. What they don't understand is this is a family issue. This hatred going around with families. That's how Esau was ready to come in and do what he did. I mean, somebody asked me a question about Moab and Ammon yesterday. Well, that's Lot children. Lot came out of the same place Abraham came from, the same lineage. It's family issues going on. Ammon and Moab is Israelites.
And basically that the Nigerians, the people that they enslaved, they weren't Israelites. They were like the nations that they basically like used.
Well, we're gonna see in a minute. I'm gonna go to the next video who these Fernandi are, and Esau them teamed up. Nigeria teamed up with them.
Right.
We teamed up with them. We're gonna see. We'll see. We're going to. Anybody else got anything? He's gonna answer some of the questions.
I noticed they kept saying jihad, and that's a war that the Muslims use.
Right,
so,
right. But my thing is to shine light on who these people are, and where it originated from. So, and then we know, if you know anything about the Arab slave trade, it was way more horrendous. You think the transatlantic slave trade was horrendous? The Arab slave trade was way more than that. It's still going on.
Yes.
They don't want to talk about that because like I said, it's going to disrupt, just like the 12 tribe chart. It's garbage. It's going to disrupt that 400 years. What they talking about? Because the Most High, I told you, Hosea told us 2,000 years going to pass. Jacob's trouble was going to last 2,000 years. It started when they left in 143 BC. And went on the west coast of Africa is when the tribulation started. We at the end of the tribulation. So anyway, here we go right here. Let me get this next one. So this that first video was the Great Fulani Empire. Now I'm gonna deal with the history of the Fulani people. Here we go. See how they look?
Fulani number around 40 million people, and they're one of the largest ethnic groups in West Africa. The Fulani are spread across many countries in West Africa, but they also reside in Central and Eastern Africa. Ironically, even though the Fulani are one of the largest groups in Africa, they're not the majority in any country they live. A more proper way to address a Fulani is the word Fulbe. The Fulbe are called by many names by their neighbors, such as Pio, Fula, Fulani, Falata, and many more. The Fulbe as a whole are largely considered as a semi-sedentary people. However, one popular subgroup of the Fulbe people, called the Wudab, remain nomads. Popular characteristics of the Fulbe population tends to be their slightly lighter skin, longer hair, and generally more alkaline features. Although these features are popularized as being typical Fulbe features, the Fulbe population is not homogeneous. Their features are very diverse, and in some regions, they can be nearly indistinguishable from their West African neighbors.
See that?
This fact
So,
proves that the Fulbe people were always on the move and mixed in.
so like I said, we go back to what the Most High said. These fallen angels. These you had Enoch and all them was dealing with angels, but you got some wicked ass angels. But when they come present themselves to these men, they kind of come like they righteous. You know, you can't tell the difference. When they went to go to deal with Joseph in Egypt, the 11 brothers couldn't tell who he was because he looked just like the other people. That's how these fallen angels operate. He ain't gonna be no big old difference between the truth and the lie. And that's how they've been getting over on us.
And with the populations in which they settled.
And then, like I said, I don't know about nobody else, but we've been looking at this stuff and you see something ain't right, half-ass right, but you can't put your hand on it. But we're gonna put our hand on it today.
His own Fulani origins can range from outlandish, superficial, to even plausible. According to Ma'u Salam, a Fulbe historian, the origin of the Fulani is ancient Egypt. His argument is that the Fulani, because of chaos and disorder, found their way from eastern Africa out of the Nile Valley across the Sahel to Senegal. However, most scholars actually reject this idea. One plausible idea about the origins of the Fulani is that they simply originated in North Africa, as some scholars point to clear Fulbe culture on the rock paintings in Algeria. But a more accepted theory is that the Fulbe originated in the region of Senegal because their language is closely related to Wolof. Most Fulbe are Muslims and converted to the religion relatively early. Some scholars believe that Islam almost completely eradicated any form of traditional pastoral Fulbe beliefs. Their traditional African religion isn't really well known. However, one pre-Islamic Fulbe belief system exists concerning a cow god. Practicing cow worship, the Fulbe believed that Jeno, the supreme being, created the universe from a drop of milk, and a pantheon of deities oversaw animal husbandry. One cultural hero of the Fulbe is Goroba Dike. The story of Goroba Dike is classic Fulbe mythology. The hero of several Fulbe legends was Goroba Dike, a member of the Ardo royal family. Being a younger son, Goroba Dike had no inheritance. He was so angry because of his lack of status that he left the land of the Ardo and wandered around the lands of the Bambara people in a destructive mood. Out of fear, the Bambara gave Goroba Dike's bard gold and begged him to help them. The bard convinced Goroba Dike to return to his own people who owed him a kingdom. In order to determine the situation in Ardo, Goroba Dike disguised himself as a peasant and went to work for a blacksmith. The smith told him that Kodi Ardo, the daughter of the king Hamadi Ardo, wore a tiny ring on her little finger. She had declared that she would marry only the man whose finger the ring would fit, someone with the delicate bones of a true Fulbe. Men came from all.
So let's look at this. You know, like I said, we know that even to this day, the 10 tribes came. All of them came into Africa. They was dwelling in Africa. When they had us over here, beating the hell out of us and gave us the slave Bible, we didn't know none of this stuff. But now it's coming to the light. So we see right here that the Israelites still know who they was. They was still doing a lot of the rituals and all that. These people ain't doing that. See what they doing? What they talking about? They cow worshiping and all that. The Israelites still had their culture. That's one of the identifying things that they identified in. These people are originated from somewhere else. But the more we look at it, I'm gonna show you exactly where they came from.
All over to try to fit the ring on their fingers, but it fit none of them. Goroba Dike, still dressed in rags, was the last to try, and the ring fit. Kodi Ardo protested that she could not marry a ragged, filthy peasant. Her father insisted that she had set the test, and Goroba Dike had passed it. The two were married. The Berdama, or Tuaregs, had been stealing the Fulbe cattle, so Hamadi Ardo sent his army against them. Mounted on a donkey, Gorobadike left to join the battle, with his wife jeering at him. During the battle, he transformed himself into a richly dressed warrior on a splendid horse. He agreed to help the king's son-in-law win the battle if each of them gave him one of their ears in payment.
Mythology. Okay. Any comments? We'll go to the next video. We're going somewhere. Okay. No comment? Okay. Okay.
I was gonna say, they don't look like Israelites.
No, they don't. But at first glance, if you don't have no understanding on nothing, you're gonna assume the Israelites.
Right, because they do look like us over here, but not really.
Right. Well, I agree. They got them pointy noses. You see it. It's like pointy to the mug. I was like staring at it. They hair, they had some braids, but they really ain't had no hang time like that. And it was real thin, you know.
Right.
We got thick hair.
You see them necks too, right?
Long in the mug.
Okay. All right, here we go. Now they was mentioning the house of people. You know, I had to plug this in there too, because it's all cold in there too. See, let's play this.
There are no doubt one of the largest ethnic groups.
Can you see that? Can you see the video?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
In Africa. Their history is interesting because even though at times they mixed in with their neighbors, they always seem to maintain their cultural identity. The Hausa tend to expand and assimilate outsiders, thus simultaneously creating diversity and a culturally homogeneous group. The Hausa are located in many countries.
So let's look at this, because I said we got to go all over in, you know, from a scriptural perspective, from what the Most High said. Like I said, not the local pastor or the rabbi, but what the Most High said. So we're supposed to be at the bottom of the food chain, right?
Right.
Right.
They got on. They at the bottom of the food chain. Look at all they got. What's going on today? Who at the bottom of the food chain? We is.
Right.
Right.
Huh? See, look at all they got on. They got all kind of money. Huh? Come on.
Yeah.
So
And it said he's like you said they mix with other people.
Right.
But they still maintain their cultural value.
Right. And then how they getting over on it is our history, and especially now most are bringing all these books out. Now they sitting right there looking just like us. Mm-hmm. And they incorporating them into the picture, but we're gonna see what the deal is with them. And then what a giveaway is, they got a disdain for the Israelite or the Hebrew, because the Hebrew or the Hebrew, the Israelite, the Negro, same people. They got a disdain for them. That's where the giveaway come in there, but nobody ain't spotted that. Let's go.
And northern Nigeria, numbering around 70 million people. They also have significant populations in Cameroon, Ghana, the Central African Republic, and many more. The Hausa language is considered an Afro-Asiatic language of the Chadic group. Even though the Hausa are a patrilineal group of Africans, one of their most prominent cultural heroes is actually a woman, known today as Queen Amina. The Hausa have a very detailed and elaborate oral tradition that speaks on the founding of their city-states. The Hausa peoples of Nigeria and Niger Republic commonly regard the legendary character Bayajida as founder of the Hausa states. Different traditions note that Bayajida was a son of King Abdul Hali and was a prince of Baghdad, capital of Iraq. When Queen Zidam, also known as Zigawa, conquered Baghdad, Bayajida fled Iraq with a large number of followers. They traveled through the Sahara Desert and arrived at Kanem Bornu, an already well-developed state. Once he arrived in Bornu, many of the traditions claim that he was well received.
So I want to show you something. So Eve, the Most High created Eve for help me, for Adam. To help Adam do what? Bring forth his seed, right? Hello?
Right.
Okay, so Adam put a seed in Eve, right? Let's look at it. We're going all the way in. So we in Genesis. We're in Genesis And right here, chapter 2, verse 24. I'm starting at start 21. Chapter 2, verse 21. You got it?
Got it.
Got it.
So he created the woman to help Adam bring forth seed. That's what he told the angels. He said, you came down there sleeping with women when you're immortal beings. You don't need to reproduce yourself, but this man I created upon the earth, he needs a woman to bring forth seed because he's going to pass. He need to keep his house going. So that's why he created a woman for him. So 21, and the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, closed up the flesh instead thereof, and the rib which the Lord God had taken from man, made he woman and brought her to the man. And Adam said, this is now flesh, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken out of man. Therefore shall a man leave his father. So he took the woman, put Adam to sleep. When Adam woke up, he brought the woman to Adam, right? So then 24, therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother, cleave unto his wife, they shall become one flesh. So they consummated the relationship right here. Adam, like I said, Adam was dealing with him. He buck naked. He ain't got no understanding on about being naked and ashamed from the Most High. He buck naked, and so he bring Adam, we Eve to him. He consummated right there. He went into Eve, 25, and they were both naked, the man and his wife. So thinking like a Hebrew, the only way she can become his wife, he had to consummate the relationship. Right. So we consummated. So at that point, you got a seed right there. But the serpent came right behind him. Serpent came right behind him and put Cain in there. He ain't go get another woman. Same woman. 2 seeds in there. Like I showed you before, when you understand this, then you understand Esau and Jacob. You know, but you like I said, you put it on the shelf, whatever, fumble with it. But the same thing he did, this is characteristics. He don't want another woman. He want to come behind Adam, the same woman, and put a seed in there. Did the same thing with Esau. Okay, so then, like I was saying before, now look at these people. Same thing going on.
Okay. A few claim that the reception was not a positive one. One of the accounts notes that the people of Kanem Bornu feared Bayajida because of the large numbers of his men. And yet another version, he is said to have planned to overthrow.
So like I was saying, we saw that where Asherah was at. Asherah, we found out where it's at. It's right up above the Sahara Desert. So Israel left Egypt, left Jerusalem, went across there, came down to the Sahara Desert. These clowns did the same thing. They followed the same tracks Esau did. They came down to the Sahara too.
The Bornu king received word of this plan and consulted with his chiefs. The chiefs advised the king to deal diplomatically with Bayajida, owing to the sheer size and war readiness of his men. In order to win Bayajida's loyalty, the king invited him to the palace and offered his only daughter, Magaram, also known as Magira, to Bayajida in marriage. However, according to another version that mentions his marriage to Magaram, Bayajida was well received in Bornu and was said to be very popular among the populace. The king grew envious of Bayajida's popularity and plotted against him. Bayajida's wife learned of the plot and advised Bayajida to leave Bornu. Traditions note that soon after Bayajida, his wife and slave settled at Garum Gabas, he left for Dara. Stopping briefly at Gava near Kano, a local blacksmith made him a sword. Bayajida finally arrived at Dara, the modern-day Katsina state. Thirsty and tired, he stopped at a house in Paria as a concubine. They named their first child Karbagari, which in the Hausa language means he snatched the town. Fearing that Bayajida would one day take her country from her, Diorama, contrary to tradition, offered herself in marriage to Bayajida. She named their son Bawo, which in the Hausa language means give it back. These oral traditions relate that Bayajida bore 3 sons by 3 women. Bawo had 6 sons: Dara, Gober, Kano, Katsina, Rano, and Zaria, also called Zazao. Together, Bawo and his sons originated the so-called legitimate Hausa states, the Hausa Bakwai. Bahram, son of Magaram, and Karbagari, son of Bagararia, raised 7 other children who ruled the 7 illegitimate states, the Banza Bakwai. The first Chadic speakers are believed to have cultivated cereals such as millet and sorghum some
Like I say, picture worth 1,000 words.
6,000 years ago in the vicinity of Lake Chad. Chadic speakers subsequently brought their language and agricultural traditions to present-day Hausaland and merged with existing populations. Their descendants are the present-day Hausa people. The earliest Hausa states probably formed by 1200 CE. The first towns apparently coalesced around traditional shrines, which attracted pilgrims and became centers for trade. An increase in traffic along the trans-Saharan trade routes to the Hausa towns expanded the commerce in slaves, gold, and cola from the savanna and forest regions to the south. This thriving trade generated wealth that enabled the rulers of these towns to establish states. The 7 so-called true Hausa states, Bahram, Kano, Rano, Katsina, Dara, Zazao, and Gober, which the Hausa consider the core of Hausaland, emerged during this period.
Okay, so let's look at that. So earlier in this video, he said that the origins of them people was from the area around Baghdad and on down to Babylon, in that area right there is what he said. So let's look at something. I'm in the Book of Jubilees, and I'm in when right before Abraham died, and so I'm picking it up, and it's in chapter 20, verse 9. I'm going to 9:13. It says Abraham giving all his sons. You remember he married another woman after Sarah died. She had a man could cook. She had a bunch of children, Midianites, and all them people. So verse 9 says, "Do not serve them nor worship them, but serve the Most High God." See that? We see right here these people. They got some more stuff going on. See, do not serve them nor worship them, but serve the Most High God and worship Him continuously and hope for His presence always, and work uprightness and righteousness before Him, that He may have pleasure in you and grant you His mercy and send rain on your morning and evening, and bless all your works that you have performed on the earth, and bless your bread and your water, and bless the fruit of your womb, and the fruit of your land, and the herds of your cattle, and the flocks of your sheep. And you will be a blessing on the earth, and all nations of the earth will desire you, and bless your sons in my name, that they may be blessed as I am. We gave Ishmael, so that right there was, he was talking to Isaac. Now we get to Ishmael. And he gave Ishmael and his sons and the sons of Kukuk gifts. See that? And sent them away from Isaac, his son. And see, now this is where anger come in at. This is where anger came in at. And sent them away from Isaac, his son, and gave everything to Isaac. See that? He gave everything to Isaac, his son. He gave these other ones gifts. Now look at this 12. Ishmael and his son and the sons of Kukuk and their sons went together and settled from Paran, the borders of Babylon. See that? Ain't that what the man just said? Where they came from?
Yep.
From the borders of Babylon in all the land that is toward the east facing the desert. Look at this. These mingled and intermarried with each other, and their names are called the Arabs and the Ishmaelites. So ain't the Ishmaelites attached to Islam?
Yes.
Right.
These people right here. Yeah, wasn't it the Arabs out in the Sahara Desert?
Yeah.
See that? And like I told you, it's a family thing going on. So, like the man was saying, we're gonna get into the meat of it now. When the Esau came, right? Esau had to he had to have somebody to round up the Israelites. But here they go. These are people that was round. These are the ones that was getting us and bringing us into to the water, to the boats. These people right here.
These are
Okay,
warlike
so,
people.
Okay.
right. So, but they
So
look like. Go ahead.
he used our family that already had old beef and a vendetta against us, and
Right.
that was looking for a reason to do something to
Right.
come against us. Wow.
And Esau had a hatred too. All of them got a hatred for Israelite. That's why it's only us. We ain't nobody else. We Isaac's children, Abraham's children, that through Isaac and through Jacob. The rest of them hate the hell out of us. That's how we end up
Shalom.
over here. Okay.
Brother Leonard, you really connecting some dots for me right now.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. So so we're gonna move forward.
Before we do, that picture that you were just showing, so those are the Fulani tribe?
The Hauser. They tied this a Hauser, the Fernandi, all of them, they all tied together.
Okay.
And so we just saw that Abraham had a whole bunch of children for Kukuk. But after Abraham, right before Abraham passed, he called them all them to them, and he divided his stuff up. He gave gave Isaac everything. He gave the rest of them gifts and patted them on the back and sent them on their way. But they didn't go back to their land. They all stayed right there around Paran and Panaran and Babylon and became a mingled people.
These are the mingled people that I was asking about.
Right. And they got a hatred for it. They got a hatred for the Israelites.
So they're not really so they're not Israelites. They're connected by Abraham, but they're Ishmaelites.
The Hebrews, but they're not
They're
Israelites.
Hebrews, but now I got you. Because Jacob's line is the Israelites. But
Right.
they are Hebrews. Okay, got it.
But now, what about the Iraq? Did you say Iraq? Did I hear you say Iraq?
That's where they dwelled at, in that region.
Babylon.
Because Iraq,
Babylon, Iraq, up in that Baghdad, in that region.
Iraq is related to Shem. Those were his offspring that settled in that area. I don't know if Iran. Oh, well, I think Iran, Iraq, and I guess some other place over there.
Right,
That's what I read.
Right, yeah. It's a subgroup. They didn't intermingle with the people from Iraq. They got their own subgroup, but they in that region. Just like the Israelites was in among the Canaanites, but they didn't intermingle with the Canaanites, but they lived in that region. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if Shem is their progenitor, then originally they were black people too.
Right. Right. Yeah. When you come to find out, they all was black and started out that way till Alexander came.
Right.
Right. Okay.
So they're Ishmaelites. From Ishmael.
Arabs and Ishmaelites. Right. That's what Arab means.
Okay. Arab means Ishmaelites. Okay.
Okay. So let me get this next video. Okay. So that last video was the history of the Hausa people. So what we're dealing with right now is just the Fulani, the enemy from within. It's part 1 and 2. I'm just going to go through this one and then go to the other one. But show you what's going on.
I'll be
really going on.
the slave trade, and the Negro race. This time, we'll be looking at the Negro race and those that sold them. Have you ever heard
Yeah,
of
and I had gave you this information before about let me just have to wait. Okay. Yeah, I gave you this information before. This the name of this channel is the Renaissance, and this guy got a lot of information, but people can't deal with it because they don't understand where you're coming from with it. So here you go, right here.
about Negro land? Ever wondered why they changed from Negroes to African? Ever wondered how Negroes could have sold themselves? Truth is that the Muslims and Christians connived to sell the Negroes as pagans. Ever wondered if they told you the truth about the slave trade? So who sold the Negroes? Who is the Sultan? The Sultan is the head of Muslims, formerly Sultan of the Fulani. Today it's called Sultan of Sokoto. And it is a stool, an area known or formerly known as Negritia or Negroland. But in this edition, we shall be looking at how and who sold the Negroes. Most times you hear when they say the Negroes do not have brains or are stupid or do not have sense, hence they sold their brothers and siblings and wives and everyone. First, before we continue, just to make it very clear that that is a misinformation and miseducation, we will first show you that the Fulanese are not Negroes. The Fulanese are also aliens, as in they are not even indigenous to Africa. No one knows where they came from. But the Europeans identified them as willing tools to be used to subjugate and enslave the blacks and Negroes. This is why you see all the wars today. And the slave trade was predominantly in areas wherever you found the Fulanese. So we will examine their activities and their atrocities. It is until this day, it's not stopped. So we will continue to show you exactly what could have happened then and what is happening now. Although we had previously addressed this, and we have previously proven that the Fulanese are never Negroes. So we need to, at this point, once again, just as a recap, to show that the Fulanese are not Negroes. If we reference a book called The African Slave Trade by Reverend Rufus W. Clark, one would imagine that a Reverend, of course, should be saying the truth and not a politician. This book was published in 1860, and it was published by the American Tract Society. We see where it tells us that the Fulans are not Negroes. They differ essentially from the Negro race in all the characteristics which are marked by physical anthropology. They may be said to occupy the intermediate space between the Arab and the Negro. All travelers concur in representing them as a distinct race in moral as in physical traits to their color. The various themes of brown, copper, red, reddish, and sometimes white has been applied. They concur also in the report that the Fulans of every region represent themselves to be white men and proudly assert their superiority to the black tribes among whom they live. As much as we had in the different parts previously, we had provided proofs and documentation to show that the Fulanese were not Negroes. We had also shown here again with a different book entirely, never referenced by any of this series before, that they are not Negroes. Let us go one step further to also show that the Fulanese politically are aliens. Because if we look at Frederick Lugard's book, The Dual Mandate, now Frederick Lugard is the British terrorist who created what is known as Nigeria today. In his book, he made us to understand that the Fulanese are alien. And I quote from his book, The Dual Mandate. The Fulani of northern Nigeria are, as I have said, more capable to rule than the indigenous races.
So notice how they didn't attach themselves to Nigeria. Nigeria is Ephraim. So these are the people that went and got Judah. Is what I'm trying to show you.
In proportion as we consider them an alien race, we are denying self-government to the people over whom they rule and supporting an alien caste, albeit closer and more akin to the native races than an European can be. The reason we have produced this reference from Frederick Lugard is just to help us anchor on the point that one, the Fulanis are not Negroes, two, they are aliens. And we will go further to show that they were behind the slave trade. They were the raiders. They sold the slaves. It was not about Negroes selling themselves. And it is ambiguous and, in fact, a big lie to suggest, insinuate, or even say that the Negroes or Africans sold themselves. There is no way you can say Africans, because if you looked at one of these books we had previously referenced, you will see that it says Negro land, irrespective of the fact that some Negroes today who do not read or cannot read make the mistake of taking the appellation given to them by the slave masters of African American as if to say they are the same with Egyptians or Moroccans or Algerians or even Libyans or even the Fulani, like in Nigeria, where you will see a Nigerian saying, "Oh no, the Fulanis are our brothers." They are alien. Like Frederick Lugard himself has confirmed, they are an alien race. We have provided evidence and facts to this effect in previous sessions. So we will now go ahead to see how and what they did during the slave trade. If we quickly reference a book called The Negroes in Negro Land, The Negroes in America, and Negroes generally, also the several races of white men. It was a compilation by Hinton Rowan Helper, and it was published in 1868. Let us quickly see what the Sultan said about the Negroes. We must remember that the Sultan here is the Sultan of Sokoto today. He used to be known as the Sultan of the Fulani. And we must also remember that the Fulanis are not Negroes. So here is their own version of what they said about the Negroes, because all these are justifications for the slave trade. Bello, the governor of Sakatu, said that whenever a person complained of sickness amongst the Yams, which should be the Negroes, even though only a slight headache, they are killed instantly for fear they should be lost by death, as they will not eat a person that has died by sickness. That the person fallen sick is requested by some other family and repaid when they had a sick relation.
Check this out.
That universally, when they went to war, the dead and wounded were always eaten. That the hearts were claimed by the headmen, and that on asking them why they eat human flesh, they said it was.
So they eating Israelites. They eating Israelites. These Fulani eating them. Come on.
Wow, that sounds like the Anunnakis.
The heart and breast of a woman were the best part of the body. Denham and Clapperton's Africa, Volume 4, page 262, was referenced here. Now that we have seen that Fulanis are not Negroes, we have seen that Fulanis are aliens. Let us see how the Fulanis raided Negroes for slaves. If we reference The History of a Slave by H. H. Johnston and published 1889, we see where or the account of a slave raid. Meanwhile, before we move forward, let us quickly look at the preface, the author's note about this, because it is not unusual to see Negroes telling you that, oh no, this is something written. It could have been written by anybody. It is not an account or something, because the best way to hide things from every black person, ideally, is to write it down in a book. They will either read it and not understand it, or not read it, but instead dwell exactly on whatever they are being fed with outside. One easy way to get these people down is to just ask them for a reference for whatever thing they are saying. For example, if they say, no, it's the Negroes selling themselves, just ask them for a reference or a book that gives an account of how the Negroes were actually selling themselves. You will see that they won't bring anything. The truth remains that this is not peculiar to illiterates. A PhD holder will be telling you that it's not true, even when he is looking at the book. even when he can read, even when he sees that the book wasn't written by you. Now, instead of making any effort to go and look at what was written and the accounts that were written or what was happening then, they will rather dwell on the fact that they are more educated than you. And that is the challenge of Negro education. You will see a professor that will go and look for these books to see if the accounts are something that can make sense. They will rather start telling you what they think they know because they are professors made by the slave masters themselves. Let us look at the author's preface to understand exactly where we are going. So the author tells us that in accompanying this little book with prefatory remarks, I fear lest I may seem to be overestimating its importance, but my publishers think a few words of explanation necessary, which will better enable readers to understand the character and the purport of, of what I have herein written and drawn. The history of a slave is an attempt to give a realistic sketch of life in the Western Sudan. It is the outcome of some considerable experience of the Dark Continent, but it is especially based on what I have seen and heard from traveling in North Africa, in the Niger Delta, and on the Cross River. I have pieced together the accounts given me by Negro slaves in the Barbary states. And this should tell us exactly that this is not a work of fiction, but something, an account of an experience, which in different or subsequent editions, we shall endeavor to prove them correct. So we see here, in the middle of all this turmoil, we had suddenly the firing of guns and distant shouting of Allah Akbar, the war cry of the Fubi. Fubi is Fulani, that's their other name. And then, as it were, all at once, the town was full of Mohammedans, some on foot and some crashing through the plantations on horseback. And our people ran hither and thither like frightened sheep. But there was no escape, for the Phoebe had surrounded the town, and any who tried to slip past the enemy into the bush were shot dead.
Right. So what we're looking at right here was this is how they rounded them up. They go and he showed you where they over in the Niger Delta, that's Negro land, in that region. They come in with surprise attacks, scatter the people, then round them up. What they doing was the people on the boats they made an order, put an order in, certain amount of people they want, and then they go and raid the Israelite village and bring them to them. That's what's going on. So this is this video is Fulani, the enemy within. It's part 1 right here. So you want to go back and look at it. I'm gonna go on to part 2, play a little bit of that, and I'm gonna shine light on something when I finish that. Comments? Okay. Okay. Part 2 right here.
Part 2 of the series, Fulanese, the enemies within. As a recap, remember in part 1 of this series, we examined the narrative of a captured slave from a desolated community after a Fulani slave raid. So we're going to continue from where we stopped in part 1. The title or name of the book was The History of a Slave, written by H.S. Johnston and published in 1889. So we have the following accounts. Here we see from the account, and I read, here I used to see the Mohammedans riding on horses and asses, animals that were new to our people, who always called them the white man.
So Mohammedan is the same as Muslim. They was Mohammedan before they became Muslim.
Cows, for as the Phoebe were so much lighter than we in color, we used to call them Pamnupo, or white men. Now, one key thing to note here is that the Negroes or blacks themselves saw the Fulanese or Fulbe as white men. So we need to also remember here that this incident or this community is in what is called Niger Delta today in Nigeria. And we must also remember that the reason some people who are descendants of former slaves come home to places in Africa to look for others who could be where they originally came from and they can't find a DNA match is because of the communities were fully desolated by the slave raids. For example, this word, Pamnupo, may not exist anymore in Nigerian diction because that community was entirely wiped off the map by this Fulani slave raid, and the community was in Bodicum in what is today Niger Delta in Nigeria. So we see again that clearly from our part one that the people saw the Fulanis as white people. Also, if we quickly reference another book called The Making of Northern Nigeria by Captain C.W.J. Orr and published in 1911,
The Making of
and
Northern
we have
Nigeria.
where it tells us who the Fulanis are. So it says the Fulanis themselves were an alien race who had usurped the power less than 100 years before, and that they had devastated the country by constant war and slave raiding, and that under their present rule, neither life nor property was safe. I am not sure how many other references we need to establish that the Fulanis are aliens. Frederick Lugard, the British terrorist who created Nigeria, said it in his book. This book is saying it. A lot of other books are saying it. But unfortunately, because Negroes and blacks do not read, they do not research, or when they read, they don't believe what they read. They would rather believe what they are told. They don't apply what they read to their lives. It is clear that the Fulanis are aliens. It is clear that they were behind the slave trade. But you will find a PhD holder, a Negro professor, telling you that Africans sold other Africans. And then you keep wondering where they get their information from. When you ask them for citation, they will cite a book written in 1984 by someone like them or the slave masters without looking deep, digging into the archives to find out what could have transpired then. Let us go forward to see who the Fulanis really are because they remain the enemies within. So if we move forward in the same book that we were looking at previously, we see where the Fulani slave trader asked this narrator the following questions. How our people would like to become Mohammedans and live under the Sultan of Kashgar's rule. I told him, foolish pagan as I was, of course, he saw himself as a foolish pagan as at that time because when they present their lies of Christianity and Islam to you, you'll start thinking you have been foolish. Whereas those are the two religions used for the slave trade. The Christian religion made them better slaves, while the Islamic religion made them catch the slaves. Two different things, but same goal. That we like best to worship the spirits of our fathers and to follow in their ways. And that although the Sultan of Gashga might be a...
So you notice what he just said, right? He said that Esau, these Illuminati bankers created both religions. They created the Islam for them to catch the Israelite, make them feel at ease in catching the Israelite, and they gave Christianity to the Israelite to control it, to be a better slave.
A strong and just man, we would sooner live under our own chiefs. This man asked me many questions about our country and the countries beyond us to the south. And he told us, if we went many days' journey towards the setting sun, we should come to the great water where the white people ruled. He also said that he liked so much the slaves he had bought at this market that we must wage other wars on our neighbors and get more and more slaves, so that when he came again, in 3 months' time, he would find a good number of slaves ready for sale. He talked to me in the Juku language, which I partly understood from the trading journeys which I had made. Now, one key thing to note here is the Juku language is probably no longer there today.
So let's look at that. I told you that this was the Fulani, the enemy within, part 1, and this part 2. So I'm going to go to the scriptures right quick, show you something, because like I said, we ain't reading it right. We wasn't reading it right at first. So I'm in Ezekiel 38. Bring these scriptures alive. '38. We know that 638 ain't happened yet. So let me get this. I'm at 38. Verses 1 through 9. Let me get it. In the Bible. 38, 1 through 9. So it says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against God, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, prophesy against him. So we know right here who these people are. This Japhet, with verse 3, and say, thus says the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. I will turn thee back, and I will put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Now here we go, right here. This is what we're looking at right here today. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya with them, all of them with shields and helmets, Gomer and all this band, and the house of Tamar, the northern quarters, and all this band, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. After many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter days, latter years, thou shalt come into the land that is brought back by the sword, and is gathered out of many people against mountains of Israel, which have been always waste, but it shall be brought back out of the nations, brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. Thou shalt sin and come like a storm. Thou shalt be like a cloud to cover the land, thou and all thy bands. See that? Right? And many people with thee. So what we looking at? We just saw, talk about last night, how he set the Egyptians up. He strengthened the Israelites the first time and beat them real good and bruised them up and to draw them out. And then when they came back, the Egyptians had a fear on them, and he brought them out into the Red Sea and killed them. Well, same thing happening right here. He taking us right back to the West Coast, set us back up again. They did us bad the first time, and we see right in 38, they're gonna come right back. They're gonna do the same thing. But he got a surprise for him. But he naming all these other people, but we ain't getting the whole picture on who they are. We see now who they are. That's with them. Now let's go one more place, and then I got one more video I'm gonna discuss. Psalms 83. Like I say, they got a literary genius to do this. He knows how to fade things out and fade stuff in when you want to, make it look good. But like I said, them days over. So Psalms 83. Keep not thy silence, O God, hold not thy peace, be not still. Anybody that's been doing this for a minute got some kind of understanding of Psalms 83. Keep not thy silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thy enemies. We see who the enemies are now. It's a whole lot more than what we thought. Say, for lo, thy enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may no more be in remembrance. For they have consulted together on one consent. They are confederate against thee. See that? And he's going to tell you who they are. Tabernacle of Edom, the Ishmaelites. See that? The Mingle people, Moab, we talked about them, and the Hagarenes, Gebal, Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines, and inheritance of Tyre. Asher also is joined with them. They have helped the children of Lot. Do one of them as the Midianites. They go to Midianites. That's Kukuk, one of the children from Kukuk. As to Sisera, as to Jabin, as to brook Kishan, which perished at Endor, and they became dung upon the face of the earth. So we see now what the Most High is alluding to, but they didn't downplay it. Okay. So any comments before I go to this last video?
In this in Psalms 83,
Right.
it's you can see it's an assortment of enemies,
Right.
against the nation. Yeah.
Right, but they didn't downplay who they are. They didn't, it was in there. It was in there, but they didn't downplay it because like I said, they got another story they incorporated and brought JC in, so they downplaying, protecting their allies. Because like we see they're gonna bring that same little system back up in place once he delivers us from here. They think they're gonna be able to come back up and do the same thing again, but it's, they have no clue who they're dealing with.
Right.
So yeah. Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. So here we go with this last video. Yeah. See if anybody have any questions or comments. Okay, so say who captured and sold slaves right here.
And welcome to this edition of Who Captured and Sold the Igbos as Slaves, Part 1. Important notice: this video is research-based and never intended to offend anyone. There is no propaganda or any deliberate attempt to misinform anyone. The goal of this video is for you to look for the books, journals, and other publications referenced and study them. Remember, when a lie is told often enough, people begin to see it as the truth.
Right.
Synopsis: it is alleged and taught in schools today that the Arab priests were behind the capture and sale of Igbos during the slave trade. The Europeans and Arabs, who were the architects and masterminds of the slave trade, were able to sell the lie that the slaves were sold by the priests of Chukwu during the slave trade, which lasted from circa 1434 to 1900. This video will seek to examine who actually captured and sold the Igbos as slaves during the slave trade.
So you notice right here, this timeline, 1434 to 1900. That's a whole lot longer than 400 years. So we got to ask yourself, where is that in the scripture?
Things to note: Guinea and Negroland will be considered as same. Igbos, Mokos, Negroes may be used interchangeably. Records of slave raids will be used to establish who was behind the raid and capture of the slaves. The number of slaves exported will be used to show that it is impossible for the priests to have done it. Muslims, Christians, and Jews connived to capture and sell the Negroes as pagans. Here is how we will proceed. We shall examine how slaves were acquired and then determine if the Arab priests had the capacity to carry out such raids. Then provide evidence of European, Arab, and Fulani slave raids in Igbo land. Look at how possible it would be for the priests without an army, cars, horses, bicycles, scooters, etc., be able to raid, capture, and sell 191 slaves per day in 1838. Now, this is based on the figure of number of slaves exported in that year. So we divided it by the number of days in a year and arrived at an average of 191 slaves per day at least to be able to make our point clearer. So let us reference a book called The African Slave Trade and Its Remedy by Thomas Powell Buxton and published in 1811. We see the following account. So from the highlighted portion, we see that the number of slaves taken from the Bights of Benin and Biafra alone stood at about 140,000 in 1838. So that will give us some estimate, and we shall then try to look at how possible it could have been for the priests.
So you see how they're connecting the dots, right? They go to Cape Coast Castle, right there where it's at right now. Okay.
We're able to sell this number of people. So in order to have a good picture of what the casualty rate.
And this is the thing I alluded to. One reason why I didn't really I never dealt with it, but see, like I was telling you about prophecy already took place, and they got you thinking it's gonna happen. See, here go the beheading right here. This is what these people were doing. See the picture? This is what they was doing all across the Sahara. They was chopping their heads off. And it ain't coming. They already did it. See that? They had a disdain for the Israelites. When every time, like the man was saying, if they got a cold, they hated them so much, they chopped their heads off. So that's what was going on. These people, they had the swords, they was beheading the Israelites. They took that and put it over there on the Catholic Church, and the saints getting beheaded. See what I'm saying? But this was most I was talking about.
It was like, let us reference a book called Slavery and the Slave Trade in Africa by Henry M. Stanley and published in 1893. So here we see that the slave traders admit they have only 2,300 captives in their fold. The banks of the river prove that 118 villages and 43 tribal districts have been devastated, out of which they have only this scant profit of 2,300 females and children and about 2,000 tusks of ivory. Given that these 118 villages contained only 118,000 people, we have only a profit of 2%. And by the time all these captives have been subjected to the accidents of the long river voyage before them, of camp life and its harsh miseries, to the havoc of smallpox and the pest which misery brings, there will only remain a scant 1% upon the bloody ventures. Now that you have seen the level of devastation, do you still believe it could have been done by the priests? So now let's go to who could have been behind it. So from the same book, we see where it tells us that 165 years after the discovery of the Cape, Sir John Hawkins pioneers the way for England to participate in the slave trade, hitherto carried on by the Portuguese, the Spanish, and the Dutch.
Okay, so this is where I want to go to right here. So you see that? The Spanish, that's Spain and Portugal, right? So let's go back and look at something and get out of this. So this was this video right here was who captured and sold the Hebrews as slaves. You want to watch it. And the channel is Renaissance. If you want to go to that channel, this is loaded with information. Let me get this out of this right quick. I'll show you something. I've been screaming this forever and a day. I don't know if it's sticking or not. So let's look at this. Okay. Okay. So I showed you right here. This is a black woman. They Edomites. And this is how they looked at when they left in 70 AD. But they was given the Roman Empire, which is their kinfolks, gave them safe passage to Spain. I'm gonna show you that right here. Over here. See that? Let me get this over here. See that? So this was in 70 AD. It was Edomites in the land. They was given safe passage right here, Spain. See that? So this is Sephardic Jew. Sephardic, right? He got Negro features. Sephardic Jew is Portugal. This is where all the drama went down at the Edomites. This is where the Rothschilds, all them came from. They live in our prophecy. So when you understand this right here, Spain and Portugal, right around this corner right here is the west coast of Africa. This is Africa right here. Top of this is Africa. So they just come around there. And the guy just showed you who behind it. So what they were doing was these people here, Harris lineage, they had dark skin and Edomite Jews. They robbed them and they took them and dumped them off on the west coast of Africa. So it's a whole another group of people that hate the Israelites. They robbed them of their money, their own people, and took them and dumped them off on the west coast of Africa. And so, like I said, this how they look. So what you got to look at is, ain't that what came here when they raped the women on the boat? They had the same look. And then what they did to them, throw them, put them in the down the plantation, down the slave quarter with the rest of the people. So let's look at that. So, like I said, you got to do your homework. It's Sephardic. Go look up Sephardic Jew. So, who is this Sephardic Jew, right? Who is this Sephardic Jew? So, what he did was they, like I said, they robbed them. Then they took them over there and threw them off over on the west coast of Africa, where they knew Israel was at. And so, they knowing all this, they came in, got those people, them the people they using, to hate the Israelites, to go and get them, go to these villages, going where they was at in Negro land, and capture them and bring them to the boats on the ship. And then later on, they what they call the Africana, the Edomites, the South African. And so later on, after they expanded and got all this money and wealth, they came back and rewarded them. That's why they're in the position they are now in Africa. But they the ones that was behind all that. Like I said, it's all biblical. But they done flipped it all off and tricked it off where we don't really understand what's going on. But I'm connecting the dots right here. So, like I said, go and Google Sephardic Jews, and it's no different than they did the same thing, same playbook with Hitler. Hitler was an Edomite. They brought him on the scene like he was gonna, and set him up in Germany. Brought all that drama, and then brought all that drama in Germany, and then they tore the whole place all up. And then came back and built it back up. They making millions and millions of dollars off of it. But it was their own kind. They've taken their own kind into those concentration camps and burning them and putting them in those incinerators. But they did the same thing back here with the brothers talking about. They robbed their own people, the lower class ones, and sent them and dumped them off naked. I'll show you that this evening. In the evening class, naked, dumped them off on the west coast of Africa, on the shores. But like I say, that's been hid from us. So I'm gonna open it up. Anybody got any questions, comments? Okay. Anybody got any questions or comments? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody ever go on the website called slavevoyages.org?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, there's a lot of.
Yeah, I've been on there.
Yeah, I see they doing a lot of amendments to that website. I mean, I was on it from like years ago, and now recently when I go on it, I'm seeing that they trying to extract stuff out of it that was in there before.
Right.
Still playing
right, exactly.
stuff. But it's still a good website.
Right.
You want to, you type up names of the slave boats and you can find out a lot of information on that.
Right. And then the thing about that was, like I was saying, is what a giveaway it is, the manifestos. All the people they had Israelite names. They knew exactly who they was.
Right.
And they flipped them in, and then when they got over here, they gave them different names because the people over here, I mean, like when you understand it, there's a lot of people from other nationalities, they've been duped just as well as us. They didn't know those Israelites. Esau was behind all that. He not only duped us, he duped a lot of other people. Because if those people would have seen the names of those people, a lot of them wouldn't touched us.
Right.
Yeah, but they changed the name and people didn't know.
That's what they said, the story of when they brought the Ashantis over here. That,
right.
They couldn't get these people to submit because these people knew who they were. So they would not, they wouldn't work with them.
Right.
So they break them down and completely destroy them mentally and stuff. And then fast forward to here we are today. But I see now that the tumult was strong because that's the one thing. Like if you you know, when you're in your Christian mind, I guess, and you're reading these names like Tarshish and Gog, you don't know who they are today.
Right.
So it doesn't connect with you. So that's how they hid themselves, was through these name changes. And it's like, well, these people got to still be here because there's a prophecy on these names.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Can you
go ahead?
Can you talk a little bit more about the Sephardic Jews? What were you saying about that?
Well, if you go and Google that, Sephardic, that means they Spanish Jews. They from Spain. That's
but they're the Edomites, right? When you
the Edomites, but the Edomites, but when you hear the Morays and all these different people talking about the Sephardic Jews, they saying it was black Jews in Portugal. But them, that's how they didn't cover it over on us. But them was Edomites. They was they had Negro features too at the time. But then they ended up going into Europe, when they left in 70 AD from Israel, they intermingled with the Europeans and they wiped it out. But before that, they was in Spain. When they originally left in 70 AD, they had Negro features. That's why they saying King James was a black man and all that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, King James. Okay.
Right. But them Edomites. And so they robbed a bunch of them. Their own people robbed them to get wealth. And the ones that they robbed, they sent them to the west coast of Africa where the Israelites is at. They knew where they was at and they dumped them off on the west coast of Africa. Yeah. And that's where all the drama coming from with us, how we got here. We got this big old amalgamation of people that all hate us. And then not only that, kin to us some kind of way, and they got a disdain for us.
Yes. Where we at today? Yes.
That's what we got here, and we see it every day. When it ain't gonna stop it, the most I cut it out. And that's why you got to pay. You gotta be looking at folks, because you gotta look at them. You can't go back just because they got features somewhat like you. You know, this lie couldn't have lasted and been covered over this deep, without their participation. They had to be in. They part of it too. There's no way Esau and Japheth could have done this on their own.
Yeah, I was watching something recently. It was a few years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and it was kind of off the subject, but we're talking about the Ishmaelites and the slave trade that's still going on. They had some like she was an African lady, I don't know, but she was a slave, and they had her hanging upside down, and it was like active slavery still going on over there.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's still going on. That's what I was gonna kind of deal with that a little bit tonight. How I want to see exactly how they raided the village. On the videos, to show you how it all went down. People don't really understand how it went down, and when you see it, like I said, you can see that these people ain't Israelites because of their demeanor and the way that they coming at the people that's in the villages. They got like I said, it's a hatred beyond its explanation. And the way they was doing this, they talk about the numbers of people that made it here. They don't deal with the numbers of people that got slaughtered. Like I said, the thing that they did was, the biggest thing they did was they chopped their heads off. Whenever they said the wrong thing, or if they had them in a line and a couple of them was slowing the line up, they just came back and with a sword, chopped their head, beheaded them. But they got you thinking all this one is coming, but that had already happened. The guy was talking about how they followed those trade routes from when they brought the slaves from through those trade routes to the shoreline to put them on the boats with heads. Beheaded people all strolling down the way. They don't even bury them. But they had to hide that. You did something?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, anybody else got anything else? We had 150, almost hour and 50 minutes. I kind of went over last night.
That's why they don't want to teach slavery in schools.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because more and more information gonna come out.
Right.
Yeah.
Shalom.
Okay.
The Christian religion was used by the slave trade to control the slaves. The professors were made by the slave masters themselves. We
Right.
don't inquire what we read, we just believe it and we do what we're told. That's exactly why I'm so grateful for the Lord of hosts and this line for connecting so many dots because it has got to be the Lord of hosts,
Right.
that's bringing forth this truth.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's that time. Like I said, a lot of people don't really understand where we at. Where we at in the process. We got all this stuff going on, all these lies that been piled up in the New Testament. You thinking you got time, but we at the door right now. It's just a matter of it, carrying itself all the way out, coming, manifesting itself. We there.
Have, have any of you listened to that or watched that video by Myra Waiters? The ship is in the harbor.
No, I have. It's a video on YouTube.
Uh-huh. And
Okay,
she
I'm
put
gonna.
out I guess the Most High talking to her in dreams and stuff, and she starts to read scriptures, and there's this second one that I watched. I didn't see the whole thing yet, but yeah, she said the ship is in the harbor. Oh, and also in the video, she's talking about maybe you all heard about this. Some woman was talking about there's supposed to be aliens in the Grand Canyon or somewhere.
Oh yeah. They had they've been finding these. So supposedly they've been finding these time chambers, finding these red-headed giants inside these like suspension chambers.
What makes I guess this here video that the woman did, not Myra, but the Caucasian woman, she said, so significant is that she said she was standing, I think, on the Capitol, trying to get people to join up with her, scientists or somebody to join up with her to go research and see what they, to see what's up. What is this?
All right.
She wants to do, yeah. So I haven't seen that video either, but I thought I'd mention it because she will mention that if you watch her video. But the video, the ship is in the harbor, is very interesting.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's kind of it's something to think about as far as those what they were saying about the time chamber, the capsules, cause you got to ask yourself where did the giant come from that attacked the soldiers in Kandahar? So that's what got my attention. That's like I say, okay, where he come from? So it got to be something. Like I said, they didn't figure out how to manifest through DNA sequence. All they have to do is get like the bones of the pharaoh, and they can do some kind of DNA sequence where they can regenerate that person again, make a clone out of it. So it's either that or, like I was saying, the guy was showing in the video. I got to go find the name of it, but he was showing how he was scanning around through there with a camera, how showing these giant, red-headed giants with all their gab on, their hands folded in these time chambers. They uncovered them, and they went in through some secret corridor or something in Grand Canyon, and they saw all this stuff. It was all there, like they just waiting, or they've been put there for a certain time period or whatever. But yeah,
It could be portals up there too.
yeah,
Because like I said, over in the Grand Canyon, it's they have military over there. They won't let you go in certain parts.
right. Exactly.
What is the name of that video? The ship is in the harbor. Is that on?
What?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Her name is Myra, Myra, and last name Waiters, Waiters.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so everybody good?
Good.
Okay. Yeah, so let me hit this real quick.